Caribbean and European Union on Justice, UNDP Barbados, and the Eastern Caribbean. Mr. Cuthbert Henry, Director of Probation and Parole Services, Ms. Lindell Archibald, Project Director, Judicial Education Society, Mr. Hilwin J. Hernandez, Manager, Court Innovation and Quality Assurance, Judiciary of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago, staff of the court's headquarters and court offices in each of the OECS member states and territories, distinguished participants in person and on Zoom, members of the media, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. It gives me great pleasure to bring you the welcome remarks today at this Criminal Backlog Symposium, convened under the auspices of the Eastern Caribbean Supreme Court. The issue at heart of this symposium is a persistent backlog of criminal cases. It's one that resonates deeply with everyone in the room. We would like to take this opportunity to welcome everyone here. This symposium provides a significant opportunity for us to come together to confront one of the most persistent challenges facing our justice system. Over the next 2 days, we will engage in meaningful dialogue, data-driven analysis, and experience sharing, and practical measures to reduce criminal backlog. I urge the participants, both in person and on Zoom, to ask questions, take part, make the symposium a very lively one. I wish to express our sincere appreciation to UNDP, Pace Justice Project, for their continuing partnership and unwavering commitment to justice sector reform in the Eastern Caribbean. I also wish to thank our facilitators, presenters, and participants for dedicating your time, expertise, and energy to this cause. On behalf of the Honorable Chief Justice, management and staff, and all our judicial officers in each of the member states and territories, we welcome you here to St. Lucia, both for our persons in person and online, and good morning. We have a distinguished set of persons who will be addressing us at our symposium. And our first person is no other than Ms. Christelle Gemon. She's a team lead, Partnership of the Caribbean and the European Union on Justice, UNDP Barbados and the Eastern Caribbean. Please make her welcome.
Good morning. Good morning. Sometimes when you use the technology, if a little issue, just give me a moment, please. Apologies. Okay. Good morning, distinguished guests, colleagues, and partners. It is a privilege to join you this morning on behalf of the United Nations Development Programme and the Pace Justice Project. Allow me first, please, to acknowledge Her Ladyship, the Honourable Madam Justice Margaret Price Findlay, Acting Chief Justice of the Eastern Caribbean Supreme Court, the Honourable Mr. Leslie Mondesir, Attorney General of St. Lucia, Mr. Alessandro Tedesco of the European Union Delegation, members of the Judiciary, directors of public prosecutions, law enforcement officials, and all our valued partners gathered here today. Your presence reflects a shared commitment to advancing justice, strengthening our institutions, and ensuring that every person in the Eastern Caribbean can access justice that is timely, fair, and efficient. This symposium marks a very important moment in the Eastern Caribbean's collective effort to address one of the most pressing challenges within our justice systems, the reduction of criminal case backlogs. It brings together leaders from across the justice chain, from the bench to the bar, from police to probation, to identify practical, actionable strategies that can make a measurable difference, and this is really important. UNDP is honored to stand alongside the European Union and the Eastern Caribbean Supreme Court in supporting this very important initiative. Together, we view it not as an isolated event, but as part of a wider movement toward comprehensive justice reform in the Caribbean. And allow me to touch on the Pace Justice Project for just a bit. The Pace Justice Project is the flagship partnership between the European Union and UNDP, and it is dedicated to strengthening justice systems across 8 Caribbean countries with a very specific focus on reducing criminal case backlogs. Our work is anchored on 3 pillars that reflect a holistic approach to reform, and they are technology and software, where we are introducing digital tools and equipment to enhance efficiency and transparency across the justice chain. Capacity building, where we have been equipping justice professionals with the enhanced knowledge and skills to deliver people-centered justice and services. And institutional and legislative reform, where we are working to strengthen coordination, modernize legal frameworks, and foster collaboration among justice institutions. It is through these efforts that Pace Justice is working to advance the Sustainable Development Goals, particularly SDG 16, which focuses on peace, justice, and strong institutions. This aligns with UNDP's broader commitment to Agenda 2030 to build inclusive, effective, and accountable institutions that leave no one behind. And this is really critical and really key with respect to the work that we do. Through supporting justice reform across the Eastern Caribbean, we are helping to realize this global vision at the national and community levels, ensuring that justice systems are not only more efficient, but also more people-centered, transparent, and responsive to citizens' needs. We have been making important inroads across the Caribbean, but this morning I'll hone in on the Eastern Caribbean. Through Pace Justice, we have delivered critical equipment to key criminal justice agencies across the EC, supporting courts, police, prosecutors, forensic services as well, with the tools needed to operate more efficiently. Our recently completed interoperability assessments in Antigua and Barbuda, Dominica, and St. Lucia will pave the way for the launch of modern case management systems and software solutions to enhance interagency coordination and improve the movement of cases through the system. We are also working with several countries on legislative reform to modernize outdated frameworks, and we have launched an innovative Attorneys General Roundtable, a platform designed to strengthen regional dialogue, alignment, and collaboration on justice sector priorities. We also recently launched we've also recently launched case police investigation and crime scene investigation training in partnership with UNODC, that's the UN Office on Drugs and Crime, the Regional Security System, and CEPOL, the EU Training Agency for Law Enforcement, bringing together officers from across the Caribbean to strengthen evidence-based interventions. We have also on the cusp of wrapping up case management training for judicial officers aimed at improving case flow and consistency in court processes. And in the coming weeks, we will launch a regional joint DPP police training to reinforce collaboration at the critical interface between investigation and prosecution. And all of these exercises, these capacity building initiatives, have been informed by you, our stakeholders. We've listened to your needs in our planning exercises, and so this project has really been designed by you, for you. Earlier this year, we hosted trainings in AI, digitalization, and digital justice, and I'm very, very thankful to you, our stakeholders, for always supporting these trainings, and I'm happy to share that the EC countries always participate fully. Each of these initiatives directly support the goal of justice sector reform and contributes to reducing backlogs, improving efficiency, and building greater confidence in justice systems. And I would also like to share with you, some of you may or may not know, that PACE Justice was also privileged to partner with the Caribbean Court of Justice Academy for Law for its 2023 Biennial Conference on Criminal Justice Reform, which resulted in the Needham's Point Declaration on Criminal Justice Reform. That declaration now serves as the regional roadmap for coordinated reform, embracing technology, innovation, and people-centered justice. We at UNDP and PACE feel deeply connected to its vision and remain committed to translating its principles into practical results, including through forums such as this symposium. And therefore, this symposium is not intended to be a talk shop, not at all. We anticipate that its outcome will be that at the end, the outcome will be a practical roadmap to guide implementation over the next 6 to 18 months, focusing on 3 key areas essential to backlog reduction: legislative reform, human resource needs, and technological integration. The work that begins here will shape the region's justice landscape in the months ahead, turning discussions into concrete actions that strengthen institutions and bring real reform and lasting change. So in closing, I wish everyone a productive and engaging symposium, and I sincerely thank each and every one of you for your continued partnership, collaboration, and commitment to this important work. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Gimon. Can you give her a round of applause, Sonny, please? Our next presenter who will be giving us brief remarks, he'll be joining us virtually. His name is Mr. Alexandro Tedesco, and he's the Attaché Security, Justice and Human Rights Delegation of the European Union to Barbados and the Eastern Caribbean states, and OECS, and CARICOM and CARIFUNA. Please make him welcome.
Thank you. I hope you can hear me and see me. Her Ladyship, the Honorable Madam Margaret Price Finlay, Acting Chief of Justice at the Eastern Caribbean Court of Justice, the Honorable Mr. Leslie Mondesir, Attorney General of St. Lucia, Ms. Cristal Guimon, the team leader of PACE Justice, ladies and gentlemen, representative of the judiciary, of the law enforcement agencies, legal practitioner, all participants. It's a pleasure on behalf of the delegation of the European Union to Barbados and the Eastern Caribbean to address you today, although unfortunately only from remote, for the opening of the ECSC and UNDP Criminal Backlog Symposium. These gatherings, as explained by Cristal, aims to improve criminal justice delivery within the Caribbean region, and we're thrilled to be part of this significant endeavor. The European Union deeply values its cooperative relationship with the Caribbean nations. We'll be celebrating next year our 50 year of presence in Barbados, and we have insofar consistently sought to join forces with our partners here to promote initiatives that uplift democratic values, strengthen legal frameworks, and ensure the rule of law prevails. Today is yet another step forward on our joint path as we work together to address and mitigate challenges faced by the criminal justice system. The issue of criminal case backlogs is definitely not unique to the Caribbean. We discuss similar issues in Europe, which is actually leading me to say that this is a global matter that requires a systematic approach and a dedication to continuous improvement. It is critical that we focus on developing, sharing, and implementing best practices adapted to local context, but also inspired by international experience and success. And the symposium we are called to open today will actually offer exactly these opportunities. You will be able to establish dialogue, learning, and sharing insights drawn from both the Caribbean and the European experience. Let me take then the opportunity to acknowledge the presence of several esteemed speakers and panelists. Vanessa Untid, our project specialist and liaison officer with El Pacto, reflects the EU's commitment to impart valuable insights from the European Union experience in enhancing judicial processes. Similarly, we look forward to exchange knowledge with those from the Caribbean region, for whom the ground realities, challenges, and solutions may differ, yet resonate with shared goals. The presence of experts from the Caribbean will provide you with example patterns and challenges from the regional context, offering thus perspective on solutions up to work in your respective judicial system. Among the many realizations of peace justice, Crystal forgot to mention a symposium held in Barbados, January of this year, on backlog reduction, organized by Pace Justice, which, for instance, gave way to the setup of a task force in charge of optimizing judicial flows in the country and its different national courts. This is an initiative I trust you will hear about in the following days, and perhaps may be of inspiration for your work. Let me also dedicate a few words to Pace Justice, which is our flagship program financed on the European Development Fund and implemented by UNDP, flagship program on the rule of law. I'm sure many of you have by now become familiar with it, as it is actively contributing to the work of many of you. The cooperation between the project and the Eastern Caribbean Supreme Court has been a special one, and a particularly lucky one, as it allowed a number of initiatives through, for instance, procurement and delivery of essential ICT equipment, such as the digital recording system and servers, and the finalization of the criminal procedure rules for the Eastern Caribbean, which aligns now regional legal frameworks with international standards and ensures enhanced access to justice. This is exactly the kind of partnership which will allow us to engage with open minds and a spirit of cooperation as we explore case management techniques, delve into technological solutions, like, for instance, the ECSC e-litigation portal, and devise practical and sustainable action plans. In conclusion, I remind you that change is inevitable, but transformation is a choice. We urge all participants to engage actively throughout the symposium proceedings to brainstorm, question the status quo, and formulate innovative solutions that will resonate across your nations. We, as the European Union, stand ready to support your effort in reducing criminal justice backlogs and enhance judicial efficiencies. We remain committed partners in this endeavor in the following months and years. Thanks to each of you, and I wish you all a successful discussion and concrete outcomes from this symposium. Thanks again.
Thank you very much, Mr. Tedesco. And we move right along to our next speaker, our very own Honorable Attorney General, Mr. Leslie Mondesi. Please make him welcome.
Your Leadership, the Honorable Madam Justice Margaret Price Finley, Acting Chief Justice of the Eastern Caribbean Supreme Court, Honorable High Court Judges, Masters, Magistrates of the Eastern Caribbean Supreme Court, Madam Deputy DPP, Ms. Kelly Thompson of St. Lucia, members of the DPP's office, Ms. Paula Llewellyn, King's Counsel, former Director of Public Prosecutions, Mr. Gregory Gerard, Court Administrator, and Mr. Francis Litang, Deputy Court Administrator of the Eastern Caribbean Supreme Court, Mr. Daniel Francis, Registrar, and Mr. Curtis Raphael, Deputy Registrar of the High Court of St. Lucia, Mr. Ramon Ravino, President of the Bar Association of St. Lucia, Mr. Alexandro Tedesco, Attaché, Security, Justice, and Human Rights, Delegation of the European Union to Barbados, the Eastern Caribbean States, and OECS and CARICOM CARI Forum. Ms. Christelle Jamon, UNDP Pace Justice Representative, Mrs. Lindell Archibald, Project Director, Judicial Education Society, Mr. Cuthbert Henry, Director of the Probation and Parole Services, and the other members of the Probation and Parole Services here with us this morning, Mr. Hilwan J. Hernandez, Manager, Court Innovation and Quality Assurance, Judiciary of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago, staff of the court's headquarters and court offices in each of the OECS member states and territories, distinguished participants in person and via Zoom, members of the media, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you. It is indeed a pleasure to deliver brief remarks this morning at the ECSC UNDP Pace Justice Criminal Backlog Reduction Symposium. Now, today is a cabinet day, and the Honorable Prime Minister has asked us to set aside Mondays for cabinet matters only. But I respectfully asked his permission to be here this morning because I thought it important to re-emphasize the continued commitment of the government of St. Lucia to the criminal justice system, and more particularly, the reduction in the backlog of cases. I can state with authority that the government of St. Lucia has been working steadily to reduce the backlog of criminal cases in the courts, tackling this vexing issue from several fronts. One such front is the approval and funding of the Swift Justice Project and the Bodley Virtual Courtroom renovation under the Ministry of Justice. In his budget address of 2022, the Honorable Prime Minister announced that the amount of $2.7 million was allocated to the Ministry of Justice for the establishment of the Swift Justice Project to reduce the backlog of cases in the criminal justice system. That project would allow for the creation of additional criminal courts and the hiring of court staff to service the courts. I can say to date, a building to house the Swift Justice Courthouse has been secured in Vidbutei Castries, the old Admac Moplezi building on the Castries-Grosley Highway. The architectural and civil designs have been completed, and the civil works for the retrofitting of the building has started. The layout of the courthouse entails 3 courtrooms, 2 holding cells, and court staff offices. It is anticipated that the Swift Justice Courthouse will be brought into operation by December 2025. The other initiative for addressing the backlog of criminal cases is the Bodley Virtual Courtroom Renovation Initiative. This budget initiative was approved to construct 4 additional virtual courtrooms, equipped with the necessary IT equipment for Zoom sessions at the Bodley Correctional Facility. The virtual courtrooms are used to conduct initial court hearings and case management via the Zoom online platform. It allows for inmates to hear their matters within the confines of the facility, hence reducing the need to physically transport inmates to off-site courthouse locations. The additional virtual courtrooms will allow for more court sessions to be held at the same time for both the High Court and Magistrates Court. To date, the architectural designs have been completed. Procurement is expected to be completed by December 2025, and construction works by the first quarter of 2026. The Crown Prosecution's Office has not been left out. The government heard the numerous complaints concerning the offices on Miku Street in Castries and the lack of resources. The Crown Prosecution Service has been moved to new, renovated, and more comfortable premises in the Blue Coral Mall. The Crown Prosecution Service has started receiving the requisite staff, new equipment, office space, and security equipment. It is expected that the new accommodation will boost staff motivation in diligently working on the court matters. I personally undertook an impromptu visit on Friday, 3rd of October, with the learned DPP, who I must add always gave me a mouthful when he saw me, to see his newly renovated premises and to ensure that he and his staff were comfortable. So I'm very pleased with what I saw, and I presume that he and his staff are all comfortable. Other measures by the government of St. Lucia to tackle the backlog of criminal cases include the passing of legislation such as the Criminal Code Amendment Act, which makes provision for the judge-alone trials. I want to emphasize that it's law in St. Lucia. I don't know why it has not been put into effect. Nobody has made an application, because I'm actually being stopped by persons in the supermarket and otherwise asking me, what is the status of the legislation, what is going on? But as far as I know, it is law. We have set down a complete revision of the criminal code, I have sent that revision to the bar for comments. I will engage directly with the criminal bar for comments, and I intend to meet with them in the near future to discuss the proposed revision of the criminal code. We have finalized a new anti-gang piece of legislation. It will be called the Anti-Criminal Organization Bill. It will replace the former Anti-Gang Act. The former act proved ineffective against the scale and sophistication of organized crime in St. Lucia. The rise in homicides and the proliferation of illicit firearms trafficking demonstrate that criminal organizations have evolved beyond the narrow concept of a gang, leaving enforcement without adequate legal tools to respond effectively. The new act will provide prohibitions on criminal organizations, forfeiture and confiscation of property, and the development and implementation of the Criminal Organization Resistance Education and Training Program. I'm actually bringing this piece of legislation to Cabinet later this morning. A new plea bargaining bill has been finalized, thereby formalizing the plea bargaining process that currently goes in the criminal court daily. It's on the Cabinet papers for this morning. And Madam DPP, Ms. Paula Llewellyn, King's Counsel, I want to take this opportunity to publicly thank you for your input, because I'd met you at a conference in Barbados, and again, the UNDP conference, and I used much of your insight and knowledge from Jamaica in order to push these bills in St. Lucia. So give Madam DPP a round of applause, please, from Jamaica. Thank you, Madam DPP. Although Madam DPP told me at that point she's retired, but I see her hair working. So you're not retired, Madam DPP. Yes. A new witness protection special measures bill is being finalized for the protection of witnesses in criminal proceedings. The police and the DPP's office are providing comments on this bill. We also have a new fingerprints bill have been sent to the relevant agencies for discussion. The legislative drafting unit of the AG's chambers is awaiting relevant feedback to present the draft bill for Cabinet approval. In the pipeline, we also have an electronic crimes bill. There's an existing electronic crimes bill which is presently in existence, but it's basically outdated. It was agreed that the bill in its current form would have to be overhauled to address current issues, including electronic defamation, electronic forgery, violation of privacy, cyberbullying, and child grooming. So instructions were given for the redrafting of most of the key provisions of the bill to include the offenses above mentioned and other key offenses which feature in the OECS Model Electronic Crimes Bill. The 2001 Justice Protection Act, which established a program to give protection or assistance to certain witnesses and other persons, was after 20 years in abeyance, finally given a commencement date by the Minister of National Security of 1st March 2025. I want to also highlight the continuing work on the construction of the Hall of Justice building. This is evident by the tall yellow crane you see in Castries. You cannot miss it, a tall yellow crane in Castries. I also learned on Saturday, October 4th, crews poured concrete for the foundation of the building that will house the criminal courts. I personally drive there all the time to see what is going on, so Mr. Walters and others in the criminal defense bar will not be putting pressure on me. So things are moving along with the Hall of Justice building. To assist in coordinating the implementation of the criminal cases backlog reduction, a technical working group has been established comprising members of the Eastern Caribbean Supreme Court, including the presiding judge in St. Lucia, the Ministry of Justice, including the Crown Prosecution Service, Registrar of High Court, Legal Aid, and the Magistracy, the Bordelais Correctional Facility, and the Royal St. Lucia Police Force. Collaboratively, the working group has taken steps to reduce the backlog through identifying issues and taking steps to provide IT equipment training and building legal capacity in the court system. In conclusion, ladies and gentlemen, I reaffirm the commitment of this government to especially in this hurricane season I reaffirm the commitment of this government to the criminal justice system, and I wish you all a successful symposium. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Attorney General. And we note your list of legislations and we look forward to their promulgation. Thank you. Our keynote address this morning will come from our Honorable Chief Justice, Her Ladyship, the Honorable Madam Margaret Price Findlay. Please make her welcome.
Good morning, everyone. Honorable High Court judges and masters of the Eastern Caribbean Supreme Court, the Honorable Mr. Leslie Mordesir, Attorney General of St. Lucia, Ms. Kelly Thompson, Deputy Director of Public Prosecutions, St. Lucia, and other Directors of Public Prosecutions, Ms. Paula Llewellyn Casey, former Director of Public Prosecutions, Jamaica, Mr. Gregory Gerard, Court Administrator, and Mr. Francis Letang, Deputy Court Administrator of the Eastern Caribbean Supreme Court, Mr. Daniel Francis, Registrar, and Mr. Curtis Raphael, Deputy Registrar of the High Court, St. Lucia, Mr. Ravon Ravenel, President of the Bar Association of St. Lucia, Mr. Alessandro Tedesco, Attaché Security, Justice and Human Rights, Delegation of the European Union to Barbados, the Eastern Caribbean States, and OECS, and the CARICOM Forum. Please excuse my voice, I am getting over the flu. Ms. Christelle Jamon, UNDP Team Leader, UNDP PACE Justice Representative. Ms. Lindell Archibald, Project Director, Judicial Education Society. Mr. Cuthbert Henry, Director, Probation and Parole Services. Mr. Hilwin J. Hernandez, Manager, Court Innovation and Quality Assurance, Judiciary of Trinidad and Tobago. Staff of the court's headquarters and court offices in each of the OECS member states and territories. Distinguished participants in person and via Zoom. Members of the media, ladies and gentlemen, good morning again. And that was merely a practice for the opening of the law year come January. It gives me great pleasure today to address you at this Criminal Backlog Symposium, convened under the auspices of the Eastern Caribbean Supreme Court. Excuse me. The issue at the heart of this symposium, i.e., the persistent backlog of criminal cases, is one that resonates deeply with me, not only as the acting Chief Justice, but as someone who spent the greater part of my judicial career on the criminal bench. I have seen firsthand what delay does to justice. I have sat in courts where victims have waited years for closure, where accused persons have languished on remand, and where dedicated judges and lawyers have struggled under the weight of heavy lists and inadequate resources. I therefore have a vested interest in the success of this symposium, as I approach it not from abstraction, but from a lived experience and with a full understanding of the human toll that delay exacts and the institutional effort required to reverse it. The issue of criminal backlog is not merely an administrative plague. It is also accompanied by constitutional and moral implications. As an example, the constitutions of our various states and territories guarantee a trial within a reasonable time. As a society committed to fairness and human dignity, we must ensure that this right is meaningful, not just aspirational. Each file that lingers unresolved is much more than a statistic to be accounted for in the ECSC's annual report. It is a human story, adding to the public's ever-mounting loss of faith in the criminal justice system. When justice is delayed, people's rights are impinged, their lives are disrupted, and confidence in the rule of law is diminished. This symposium invites us to confront the reality of the silent erosion of justice through honest and frank discourse. We must ask ourselves, how did we get here? And more importantly, how do we move forward? Over the years, the ECSC has had to endure multiple systemic pressures which have added to the persistence of case backlogs. From limited judicial officers, particularly those with experience in criminal law, to procedural inefficiencies, and in some instances, inadequate prosecutorial or investigative capacity. Excuse me. We've also had to contend with infrastructural limitations, especially in the smaller jurisdictions. That being said, it is equally important to acknowledge the habits and practices within the justice system that inadvertently promote backlog in criminal cases. Late filings, lack of readiness for trial, frequent adjournments without proper cause or consequence, and insufficient coordination between key stakeholders all contribute to the deferral of justice. And so, if we are to meaningfully address criminal case backlog, we must adopt a comprehensive approach, one that considers the role of every stakeholder in the criminal justice system and which re-examines how we each discharge our responsibilities. I wish to reaffirm that the judiciary recognizes backlog reduction as one of its top priorities. It is not merely a matter of efficiency, but also a matter of justice. In recent years, the ECSC has been pursuing reforms that aim to enhance case management flow and to strengthen judicial performance. These initiatives include working on new criminal procedure rules, as well as criminal mediation practice directions, both of which will soon be issued to modernize the management of criminal trials. The ECSC has also expanded its use of technology in case management through the complete implementation of its electronic litigation portal, ELP, at all levels of the court and for all types of cases, including criminal cases, which were the most recent to be onboarded. On that note, I take this opportunity to strongly encourage counsel to migrate all of their criminal matters to the e-litigation portal. It is important that we move forward with a unified system of case management for greater efficiency of our judicial system. And having all matters on the portal will assist us in achieving this. Counsel may refer to the e-litigation portal guidelines document found on the court's website for guidance on the migration process. The ECSC has also recently introduced to its courtrooms AI speech-to-text transcription services, such as FTR Cloud and Microsoft Azure AI technology, innovations which will promote accurate record keeping and assist with the reduction of delays in transcription production. The court has also seen a significant development in its criminal procedure through the adoption of judge-alone trials, which have already commenced in a few of our member states, namely Antigua and Barbuda, St. Kitts and Nevis, and St. Lucia. It is anticipated that judge-alone trials will help reduce the criminal case backlog by streamlining proceedings, eliminating delays associated with jury selection and management, and enable cases to be heard and determined more efficiently while maintaining fairness and due process. These reforms are meaningful strides, but we must recognize that judicial innovation cannot alone resolve the backlog. The criminal justice system functions as an ecosystem, with the efficiency of each part depending on the other. Progress requires shared responsibility and coordinated action. Toward this end, this symposium is meant to be a collaborative platform, bringing together a diverse array of stakeholders, including judges, legal practitioners, law enforcement officials, and representatives of other stakeholder organizations. The Criminal Backlog Symposium will provide a comprehensive exploration of challenges and solutions surrounding the criminal case delay across the jurisdictions of the ECSC. Participants will be engaged with presentations on identifying the underlying causes of case backlog, from procedural inefficiencies and resource constraints to cultural and behavioral factors that contribute to delay. The symposium will also focus on best practices and innovations in case management, drawing on successful models both within and outside of the region. Special attention will be given to technological gaps and advancements, examining where our systems fall short and how emerging tools can help bridge those divides. These sessions will highlight modern approaches to case management, demonstrating how technology, when properly integrated, can significantly enhance efficiency, accuracy, and accessibility in the criminal justice process. These discussions will further be anchored by a case study on backlog and delay, offering practical insight into how systemic issues manifest in the day-to-day administration of criminal justice and how targeted interventions can yield measurable improvements. The symposium will culminate with group activities centered on action planning, encouraging participants to translate learning into concrete steps for implementation within their respective roles. An open discussion session will allow stakeholders to share their perspectives, commitments, and collaborative strategies for ensuring that justice in the Eastern Caribbean remains both timely and effective. For criminal backlog reduction to be successful, all relevant stakeholders, including the police, prosecution, defense bar, probation services, and social support systems must align in common purpose. It has to be a collaborative effort. We must move from a culture of reaction to one of anticipation. I would be remiss if I did not acknowledge at this juncture that meaningful backlog reduction also requires legislative and policy reform. And might I add, I was very glad and encouraged this morning to hear from the Honorable Attorney General of St. Lucia the legislative reforms that are being put in place in St. Lucia. Procedural modernization must be supported by updated laws that reflect contemporary realities. For example, laws governing disclosure, bail, plea bargaining, and sentencing should be aligned with the goals of efficiency and fairness. We must also ensure that institutions supporting the court, such as the police, prosecution services, legal aid, and rehabilitation officers, are adequately resourced and staffed. Our lawmakers have a vital role to play in ensuring that justice is not undermined by outdated legislation, lack of infrastructure, or the underfunding of agencies. With that being said, I urge each stakeholder represented here to leave this symposium not just with ideas, but with firm commitments. Let us commit to reviewing our processes, to collaborating across institutional lines, and to holding ourselves accountable for our roles in the progress of justice. The moral measure of the justice system lies not only in the fairness of verdicts, but in the timeliness of outcomes. We are all familiar with the phrase, justice delayed is justice denied. Conversely, justice delivered efficiently, fairly, and transparently strengthens public trust and reaffirms human dignity and upholds the rule of law. It is my sincere hope that this symposium will mark a turning point from analysis to action, from fragmentation to coordination, from delay to delivery. I think I speak on behalf of the judiciary when I say that we stand ready to do whatever is necessary to support every initiative that advances this cause. As I close, I wish to extend my sincere gratitude to all of you for being present and showing your commitment to reducing the criminal case backlog in our region. Your presence is a clear signal that we are united in purpose. I must also thank the ECSC headquarters team for their exceptional work in the planning and coordination of this symposium. Your tireless efforts behind the scenes have made it possible for us to come together to exchange ideas and craft strategies for meaningful reform. I also extend special thanks to the PACE project team, which has played a crucial supporting role by providing the necessary financial assistance and technical guidelines in the realization of this symposium. As we move through the sessions ahead, I encourage everyone to engage actively, participate fully, and learn from the diverse experiences and insights that will be shared over the next 2 days. Together, we can increase the momentum of our continued movement forward toward timely, fair, and effective justice being delivered across the Eastern Caribbean region. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Chief Justice. And if we were listening to all our speakers this morning, there's one word that resonates throughout: engagement and participation. So that's the order of the day for today and tomorrow. We must participate and engage. That's how we get change. So in closing, as we move on to the real work, I just want to take this opportunity to thank all our speakers this morning for a very lively opening ceremony. And once again, welcome to the Criminal Backlog Symposium, and I wish you all a productive and inspiring deliberations over the next 2 days. Good morning and thank you, everyone. We will now have a group photo because our Attorney General needs to leave for cabinet, but we need to have a group photo. And then we have a short coffee break, and our first panel discussion will come thereafter. I will also get the Wi-Fi password and username for everyone, and I will make an announcement in short order. Thank you.